Well, welcome back. And thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to have another experience with the Reverend Maggie Alderman. If you're online, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming back and logging back in. We are thrilled to have you here. I would like to, as always, start this workshop, A Journey Through Advent, with a time of prayer. Please join me as we pray. Mother, Father God, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for the opportunity to love, to learn, and to grow, to be a fuller manifestation of the Christ presence within each and every one of us as we grow as a spiritual community, as we learn from this wonderful instructor, as we spend some time in spirit, allowing our soul to grow. We give thanks for this opportunity. We give thanks for Reverend Maggie. We give thanks for your divine wisdom flowing in and through us in this and every moment. And so it is. Amen. So just some housekeeping, just so you know, Reverend Maggie has a little workbook that she's going to be using today, and we've got copies being made because we are overwhelmed by how many of you decided to come back for this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll bring some more copies down to make sure everybody gets one, so you'll have it before you need it. So just be patient with that as we run the copier. And that being said, I want to introduce once again Reverend Maggie Alderman.
Hi, I'm so happy to see you again, and thank you all for the warm welcome and the congratulatory comments outside. I just feel like my cup is filled up being here with you today. And Don already started us with a pray-in, so we can skip that part. And I want to just introduce to you about why I created A Journey Through Advent. So some of you already have what are the copies of the first section for Hope and Faith. I started this thinking, they're going to call, they're going to invite me to come. I know exactly what my workshop's going to be and exactly what I'm going to talk on. And then I heard the whisper of Spirit saying, it's going to be Advent. It's going to be Advent, and it's going to be something in Advent. So the topic went out the window, as did the workshop, and I gave room for Spirit to create something through me to share with you that was of importance to me. I didn't expect that Advent was such a ritualistic necessity for me until I really dug into Lent, the Lenten season, and the deliberate process for which we go through healing and recognition of our wholeness, deliberate prayer and enriched time with Spirit to retrain and regain strength and dominion over our thoughts that create our reality. And I thought, Lent and Advent do a really good job of mirroring each other. But Advent gets overlooked because we are, we're in the hustle and bustle of got to get the tree up and got to get the Christmas list and got to bake the cookies and the bread and wrap and blah, blah, blah. And as the catch is out in the commercial area, the reason for the season is the birthing of the Christ within us. So I created this experiential journal to serve as your guide and a companion to what Unity World Headquarters puts out in the booklet that is the Spirit of Christmas this year. So I hope that you have a copy of that. You can download it as well and use these in tandem to move through the Advent season. So to start, and as I get to know each of you, if we can go to the next couple of slides. Not that one. Can we go back? Okay, so we're out of order. Well, I wanted to ask each of you and give you an opportunity now that I've shared for you what Advent means to me. I want to hear from you how you have experienced Advent. And we've got a wandering microphone. If you're online and you want to share a comment, you're observing and participating with us, please drop that into the chat so we can hear your thoughts and your experience of what Advent has been in the past for you. Anybody? Tracy. I know Reverend Tracy has something to say. I know she does.
So what I'd like to say, what I remember most about Advent was with the children, when they would do the garden, and they'd lay out the greenery and the candles, and they'd set an intention and walk that. So that's my most favorite, probably, memory of Advent.
Mm-hmm.
And then just looking adventure. What is the newness coming through?
Mm-hmm.
Growing up here in Orlando, we went to a Baptist church that my parents founded. And that's all I knew about Advent was that it's something that Catholics did.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't eat fish on Fridays during the rest of the year. So I'm here to learn.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes.
I'm going to do something. So we're going to have to pass the microphone around. If you tell me, I'm going to repeat it for the people at home. Okay? So what was your Advent?
Yes.
Yes, a great time of great anticipation of something good.
Yes.
Yes. For me, growing up, I was just waiting for Santa Claus.
You know, for me, it was also the Advent calendars, the countdown to something great that's going to arrive. And besides deliver a piece of chocolate, be delicious in the process, it built that anticipation. Do we have any comments from anybody who's watching on the live stream?
Yes, Advent to me is expanding self-awareness and letting go of the
Yes.
past.
Yes, great.
Another one, my first experience of Advent was of the little calendars that open up to give a treat or candy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah. Oh, need a booklet over here. Gotcha. Okay, I'm going to follow along on my own slides here. Okay, so our next slide, please. Here's the actual definition of Advent. It is the arrival of a notable person, thing, or event, the coming or the second coming of Christ. And that's not all that different for us in Unity. We are expecting the leveling up, the unfolding, the maturing Christ consciousness to be birthed from within. And next slide, please. So I'm going to put you on the spot again. As the traditional Advent view goes, and we would be expecting the arrival of the Christ in Jesus' human form, what if the Christ was wandering around out there with his band of brothers and sisters, and there was the potential that he might knock on your door? What types of things might you do to prepare the welcome of the literal Jesus into your home? You can just shout it out because I know what you're going to say. Cleaning. Cooking. Decorations. Christmas shopping. We got to have a gift for the Christ knocking on our door, right? Come in now. Mm-hmm. So if we took that and flipped it through a metaphysical lens, through an application lens of our modern day, what might that look like? What might cleaning look like? Besides literally getting the dust rags out. Might it look like cleaning up our thoughts? I could not hear you. Purification. Yes, beautiful. Prayer. Meditation. Setting a place for the Christ to be delivered into our home. Right? I like the idea of having an altar, having a place of deliberate contemplation where we would go and think and pray and commune with the original creator, the Father within, the Mother within, the knower of all, and allow for those relationships. There are multiple layers of relationships that we go through and iterations that we go through as we develop to our first awareness that we are divine. And then we raise up when we let go of fears, when we recognize that we are as unlimited and our potential as the divine. And then we go through life in another stage and we are met with fear and tension and resistance. And we remember that we have the power to go right back to our preparation, right back to our knowing of our faculties, the tools that we have within us and that we practice intentionally and deliberately in unity, to see us through in faith, in hope, in love and peace and joy each of the weeks of Advent. And we find relief. I don't know about you, but I find relief when I remember I am not in charge. God is in charge. God has a divine master plan that was devised just for me. It is for me to stay in alignment, in attunement with the messages that I'm meant to receive. And when I do that, when I am in my prayer consciousness, when I am prayed up and I'm meditated and I'm really grounded, then I don't get pulled off center with all of the noise and the distraction. Like we heard, Christmas shopping, wringing our hands and throwing out the idea of what we are intentionally meant to be doing for ourselves. So I made this experiential journal so that we could have a guide, a place to go, an altar, if you will, for you to carve out time. How much time you create for yourself is completely up to you. How often you do this during the week, completely up to you. But each of the pages, each of the experiences, each of the meditations and prayer are intended to hone in, to quiet the mind, and to allow for that connection with the divine essence that is God to resonate, to reverberate, and to find an expression through you. So in my description, I said that Advent is a time where we love what we need to love, we heal what we need to heal, we forgive what we need to forgive. And by doing so, we're cleaning house. We're cleaning and making room for God to come in and find a resting place, an opportunity where we create a vacuum, the vacuum will be filled. And that gets this expression through us. So we can see the next slide, please. So, and I think you have it in one of your first pages. Tracy, I'm going to borrow your book so I can follow along. First pages, and I didn't even know that you all had a labyrinth because I didn't see that before, but I wanted to make this experiential for those that are watching online and those that will be, sheltering in place or staying home and doing their part to get ahead of or flatten this curve that we're experiencing right now. So the first activity that I'd like to invite you all to do is on page 3, we've got a finger labyrinth, and I'm hoping that it's large enough on the screen for you all at home if you haven't downloaded the booklet yet, that you can just follow along on the screen and take a time of meditative contemplation. So the instructions say to use your finger to slowly trace the path to the center of the labyrinth. Breathe and calmly and as slowly as you focus. When you reach the center, draw a long, deep breath or two, and then trace your path back to the outside as needed. I've included a few words that you might want to focus on. So before you even begin, let's all take a deep breath and exhale. And listen for what it is within your heart that you need to prepare put some attention and focus on? How will you prepare for that knock on the door when the Christ is ready to enter? And when you're ready and you have that word or you have that feeling, you have a situation, a knowingness, then I invite you to take just a couple of minutes. We deliberately didn't include music so that it would just be quiet. Feel your breath and allow for the experience of tracing this finger labyrinth to bring into focus, knowing, clarity, what is calling for your attention as we start the first week of faith. Stay in that space, and as you continue, as long as you need, if you haven't already looked ahead on the next page, you'll find a sheet where you can start to write your intentions. This can be an intention for the week for faith and hope. It can be an intention for your journey through Advent. It could be your intention of what you desire to love and heal and forgive so that you are creating room, a place, the energy to bring into manifestation through and as you your gifts into the world. So we'll take just another few minutes. And when you're done, if you'll just look up at me so I know that we're coming to completion, that's just fine. Starting to see some eyes. Feeling complete? Yes? So I wonder who might be a brave soul and share how the experience was for you to go through with the finger labyrinth. As I shared in my talk, being that I have been a different learner, I'm also very kinesthetic. I like movement. You won't often find me sitting still in meditation. I like a guide to get me into that place. I almost have to trick my brain to listen for that still small voice. So I wonder if anyone would like to share either the experience or your intention as we start off on the week of faith. That includes you viewers online. If you're feeling like sharing and want to drop that in the chat box, we would love to hear how this is working for you and what your intention for the week of faith is. In the back.
Tell her, I'll repeat it online. Go. Yeah, it's a wonderful practice that you can do anywhere. And so it was so simple and automatic, and you could do it at any time, in any place, and it's a practice I intend to do in the future a lot.
Awesome.
Really meaningful.
Great, great. I just knew you were going to answer. You guys were really in it.
I just felt like it was very calming and it helped me focus. I also have ADHD, so it's very hard for me to sit still and actually focus during like a meditation, and something like that is very helpful.
Yeah, great. So very calming and really helped you focus. Perfect.
In the chat, I've never heard of a finger labyrinth before. I found it very soothing. Like you said, it sort of tricked my brain.
Yeah, perfect. Yes.
Pam, would you like to say?
I liked the words that you had for focus.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kept looking up as I was moving my finger, and I could focus on different things, and then it helped me write out the intention and the I am statement.
Perfect.
I like that a lot.
Perfect.
Yeah, she used the focus words in the book above the finger labyrinth to stay focused, to find meaning, to be centered, and then write her intention.
Mm-hmm. Great. Does anybody want to share their intention? Yeah, great.
Go ahead and tell her, and I'll repeat it online.
Okay. Yeah, so I got the insight of using music as part of like my daily spiritual practice. My wife and I, so so that was the intention to implement music into my daily practice.
Wonderful.
His intention is to implement music into his daily spiritual practice. Wonderful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes?
Just tell her. I'll repeat it.
While I was doing the labyrinth, I realized that I was like getting ready to go up and find the words as I'm moving. And after I finished the spiral, I had three things just come right to me. Character, what some people would call, and I used to call character defects that need the light of God shown. So I just wrote those out. They came very quickly. One of them was to have
Beautiful. His intention is to have to have and demonstrate an open spirit, not guarded, but free to be me in the moment. Beautiful.
That's beautiful. Anybody else?
Yes, we have an intention from the chat. I am healthy and whole.
Yes, I am healthy and whole. I love that, especially in the year of the COVID-19. Anyone else? Good. Okay, throughout the book, and I know you all that have the copies, you've got just the first week, but there are prayers, there are meditations, there are different snippets from wisdom shared on the UWM website from ministers around the country and around the globe. So as you find your rhythm with the journey through Advent, you might want to just find one. You can dog ear it if it's a favorite, or go with the flow and allow for that reading to be what just sets the stage and centers you into whatever choice of activity that you might have for that week. Thanks, Don. So one that know that we all know is on page 5, and it's famous within Unity. Famous from hearing the recording on the UWM website that is read by Myrtle Fillmore. So I invite you to take a deep breath. This is the prayer of faith, and if you're comfortable, close your outer eyes and allow for these words to just wash over you. God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me, guides my way through every moment of this day. I am wise, I am true, patient and kind and loving too. All things I am, can do and be through Christ the truth that is in me. God is my health, I can't be sick. God is my strength and failing quick. God is my all, I know no fear, since God and love and truth are here. Keeping your eyes closed, check in as those words settle into your bones. Settle into your beingness. I'll read the prayer again. And when and if you feel called to do so, write down your expression, your feeling, your experience as you hear this prayer. God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me, guides my way through every moment of this day. I now am wise, I now am true, patient and kind and loving too. All things I am, can do and be through Christ, the truth that is in me. God is my health, I can't be sick. God is my strength and failing quick. God is my all, I know no fear, since God and love and truth are here. You don't have to fill the page. As we journey through Advent, it's a progress. It's a process. And so the invitation as you find your favorite places, your favorite prayers, your favorite activities, is to be able to move fluently through the book. But if you write how you're feeling, a word or two, and you revisit your intention, you may see that intention grow. It may be a very simple intention to begin with, to intend to be healthy and whole. We are health. We are whole. Right now, always, in all ways. And as you move through and you carry on through these next 25 days, you may find new adjectives, a new expansiveness that gets tacked on to that. You may not have an I am statement yet. You may have an intention that needs an I am statement. So you can move through this as fluently, as expeditiously as you'd like. And I invite you, seriously, to come back and forth, to really wear these pages out as you see measurably the way that you are preparing for the Christ within to emerge as a greater expression. So don't feel pressured to fill up every line just right this moment. Let's see what our next slide is. All right. So in the printed book and on the downloadable version, you will be able to see feelings on one side and the worksheet on the other side. But I believe that this is going to be on page 8 and page 9. So in my sermon today, I talked about how hope is a feeling and faith is a knowing, that inner beacon that is constantly telling us that we are not alone, that we are on the right track, that the end is near, and we will move through to completion whatever it is that is being asked of us, whatever it is we are called to do right now. So I grabbed these feelings because, believe it or not, we aren't very articulate in our vocabulary around feelings. When we were in seminary school, we had an instructor that would say, "How are you feeling about that?" And I'd say, "Good." And she said, "Good isn't a feeling." So to present this, I wanted to offer feelings when our needs are met and feelings when our needs are not met. Feelings wash over us like a wave, and we can sometimes get swept out with the current. Anybody ever have that experience? Like, I feel like I am in despair and the world is ending and I don't know where my God is and I don't know how I'm going to get through this and. But if we can identify, really get down to the finite point of what it is and name it, then all of a sudden, that furry monster that's grown an extra eyeball and arms and legs, and that emotion is driving the bus throughout our life, has a name and is getting smaller, has a name and is identified, has a name and isn't quite as big or as scary. And I know I am identifying those, air quotes, negative emotions. The great emotions, we love to feel them, and they don't tend to grab the keys of our life and drive all over the place and get carried away with us. So what I did was create this sheet from the nonviolent communications and turn it into an activity where we can go from feeling to faith. So for an example we just had Thanksgiving. It looked a lot different for very many of us than we're accustomed to in the past. You may feel sadness. You may feel disappointment. You may feel grief, loneliness. And in that feeling, turn it into a statement of faith. I feel sad that I did not have Thanksgiving with my family this year. In faith, I know God is working for the ultimate highest good of everyone, and it's okay. Another one is, I feel happy that I'm here in CCU Orlando today, and I have faith that divine order is at work. I need but get out of the way and allow God to do God's work. Do you see how that works? From a feeling, happy, tense, sad, into a statement of faith. It helps us shift, develop the lens to look through, and shift our perspective. So as we move through this holiday season, which is sure to look different, it already does, than any holiday season we have ever experienced in our collective lifetimes, we allow those feelings to come up. And it's here for you to reference. You can come and flip through the book and say, that's what I'm feeling. And immediately offer yourself the pathway to a faith statement so that it doesn't swallow you up, so that that unnamed feeling doesn't take over, not even for a moment. Not even for a moment. Life is so precious, and it is going by faster than ever. So I don't want my feelings to go unrecognized. I don't want to act out sideways, which I'm really good for, to my family when I'm feeling stressed or tired or worried. If I'm unnaming and I'm unclaiming what is in my experience, then what's likely to happen? You're going to get triggered. Anybody ever act a fool at a red light? Right? The story of the woman who had the bumper sticker, coexist and live in peace and love your brother, except the red light turned green and she's laying on her horn, just blowing her horn at the guy in front of her, and he puts down his phone and they go through the red light or the green light and the policeman pulls her over. And he says, ma'am, I'm sorry, you're going to have to come with me. And she was like, what for? Yeah, no questions, get in the back of my squad car. So he takes her to the police station, puts her in a holding cell for 2 hours. And finally he comes back and he says, okay, you're free to go. And she was like, what do you mean I'm free to go? What was I even here for in the first place? And he says, well, I saw your car go through the green light with coexist and love one another and peace on earth and all that, but I also saw you acting a fool at that red light, and I thought, surely this car must be stolen. When tensions arise, when we're anxious, when we don't know why we feel what we feel, we just know we feel it. That's the intention of this activity. So I'd like to give you a few minutes to center in, and if you need to, use the finger labyrinth. If you need to, thumb through and reread that prayer to yourself. Reference what you wrote down when I read it aloud for you. And see if you can find the feeling and name it off this list or off of what you know to be true for you. And then develop the lens through which we look in truth and faith and how we move through that. So we'll give you all a few minutes to do that. Starting to hear the pages not shuffle as much and some eyes looking on up at me. And so again, I'm going to ask if anybody's willing to share how you took a feeling that's coming up. And if you'll share the feeling and the statement of faith that you've written for yourself. Know that we learn from one another, and what you're experiencing in oneness, we are most likely all experiencing. So this is a very safe place. And we can learn from one another or bring attention to something that we may not have awareness around. Same goes for those of you watching online. We'd love your participation in the chat. Name the feeling and the statement of faith. Now you've heard mine. Yes.
I feel afraid. I know God is here with me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, her word was afraid. And her statement of faith is, in faith, I know God is here with me.
Beautiful. Anybody else? Anybody online?
Corey?
I feel worried. In faith, I know God's plan is being carried out, and all is in divine order.
Thank you. Go
The
ahead.
word was worried. And in faith, I know God's plan is being carried out and all is in divine order. Wonderful.
Amen. Who else wants to be brave? Yes.
You can tell me and I'll put it in the microphone. You can just tell her out.
Okay. Faith and thankfulness of things that have come to pass and things that are looking forward to the future. And there's no, the real presence of the Spirit, and onward and upward, is all I can say.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. Faith and gratitude are feelings of moving forward.
Mm-hmm. We're moving forward. Absolutely. Anybody else? Okay. So I know you've got this first section. Yes?
Yes, we did have one. There's a little bit of a delay. So
Okay.
I am sad. I feel sad, but I have faith that God is sending people into my life I will share my future holidays with.
Yes, that's a great one. And it leads to another section that's in the book. I don't have a slide for it, but I just want to invite you to just take a moment and peruse through. But there's a resource page on page 10. Knowing that when we move through this process and we do allow for a truth moment with ourselves to really kind of come to terms with how we're feeling, where we are within our own consciousness, where we are in our life circumstances, we start to be honest and we start to be truthful about where we want to invite opportunity for that movement, for that leveling up, for that birthing of something greater than what we're experiencing right now. And in doing that, and as I mentioned earlier, we are always looking in the face of God. We are resourceful people who are hardwired to survive. And when we get quiet and we get still, it's amazing the resources, the ways through how they will present. You'll have an idea, or you'll have a memory, or you'll be watching television and a commercial will come on and it makes absolutely no sense, but right now you know you need to call your Aunt May. And Aunt May has an idea that she's just been waiting to share with you. And it's exactly what you need in that moment, in this Advent season, to move us through intentionally and deliberately. So there's a resource page here, and I want you to mark it, dog ear that, because I know and I hold for you the truth that you're going to be inspired. And people are going to show up. Resources are going to show up. If it's money you need, it will be money that'll arrive. If it's money you need and it needs to arrive, you're going to have an idea on how to get it. If it's a new job or new home, if you're waiting for a new fur baby to come into your life, the right idea will show up. And it's such an interesting process to just make record of it. And then go back and say, oh my gosh, on December 14th, 2020, that really fun year we had on planet Earth, I had this idea. And look how it manifested. I'm sure glad I called so-and-so. I'm sure glad I did so-and-so. So this is your experiential guide. And as you go through, you'll find that I took a multitude of angles, different ways to get connected with the still small voice, to unearth creative ideas, to identify our feelings, to build on intentions and aspirations, to prepare ourselves. Because I'm going to say this, and it might get a little bit preachy, but we are at the time in our life right now where the world needs people just like us. We have been probably feeling rather exhausted. Anybody feeling exhausted and may not know why? I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because we in Unity have been holding the consciousness, the vision, and it's been a huge power drain on us. And we have been doing the work of holding space for what needs to be created on a grand scale. And the world is waking up. Our load is not going to get lighter, probably not for quite some time, because there are still a lot of people that are holding on to the old ways. But evidenced by the fact that our Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade was probably by far the most inclusive and diverse and a full representation of the people that make up our great country, I think we're on the right track. And I want you to use this journal to identify how to take care of yourself and how to think even bigger. Think larger than yourself. I never thought that we would see the origin of Native Americans in New York be on the main stage at the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade saying a prayer for the earth in their native language. I never thought that we would see a black sorority founded in Hampton University share the culture of stepping. Love it. On the main stage of Macy's. And Puerto Rico and the West Indies and the LGBTQ community with their marching band. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for the work well done. You're tired because you're holding the vision. And it's going to be grand. I know it. I have faith that we are bringing into manifestation a world that we take joy in living in. So we're going to journey for 4 weeks. I'm going to get out of your hair, but I'm not going to get out of your minds, and I hope I'm not going to get out of your hearts. We have created, next slide, a Facebook page called A Journey Through Advent. It's by invitation, or you can request to join. Each week, I have started just 1 and 2, a welcome video and the first week of faith video. So next week we'll talk peace, and then we'll talk love, and then we'll talk joy. There's going to be some prompts, some calls to action. I want you all to share openly, because like I said, we learn from one another. We gain security from one another. We normalize our experiences for one another. So in that group, it's not public, it's private. You can share your experience and how and what has been your great revelations, where you're bravely claiming as your highest good, because I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it get born. We'll also have the workbook, the journal that's there available for download, so you can share with your friends and your family and spread this process of inner development, the preparation for the knock on the door and the birthing of the indwelling, next level Christ consciousness from within. And I want to offer an opportunity for you all to ask any questions. It can be related to this journal, the process of Advent. But I'm going to be packing my bags and flying back to Central Texas tomorrow morning, and we might not see each other for a period of time. So I'd like to allow you to get to know me a little bit better. If you want to know my points of view or work experience or visions or. I am an open book. I'm here to serve, and I would love to share of myself with you in lieu of having that face-to-face kind of town hall feeling and meeting in the future. I was already asked some really great questions outside, so.
I have a question, and I think I know the answer to this. What's your first memory of being in a Unity church?
Oh, my first memory. I'm not kidding. And I was 4 years old. I wasn't 4 years old. That was a typo probably my fault. But in El Paso, Texas, my hometown, we had an L-shaped church. And YOU and the unit kids were all in the back, long part of the L. And I would shuck and jive and race through Fellowship Hall after a service and past the minister's office with just a minute to smell the books and the leather-bound chairs and her perfume. And then I'd duck up the side door and stack up the wings of song behind the pulpit and stand out and look at my congregation. And then I'd race up the aisle and lay out in the middle of the bookstore and make carpet angels. That's literally the first memory that I have. And I think it's captured in a picture somewhere by my dad. What else? Come on, guys.
Yes, Phil.
I've been with Unity for about 6 years.
Yeah.
And even though I had a background in other spiritual and religious aspects, there are so many amazing topics that I've learned about in this church.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience with Unity, what was the first lesson that you learned, like gratitude or forgiveness or things of that nature? What was the first thing that really stuck with you that brought you closer to your Unity connection?
He asked, what's her first big Unity lesson that she remembers learning?
Mm-hmm. My dad was here. My dads, plural, were here today. And my dad, I can still hear it in my mind. He would say, Maggie, you create your own heaven or hell. And I didn't understand. Like, I'm just, 11 years old. What are you looking at?
I tend to say that to my own kids.
Oh,
You create the world you live in.
Oh, your own. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I remember just thinking, I'm just living here. I'm just 11. I'm just, I'm upset. I'm crying out loud because I didn't take out the garbage and I didn't walk the dog or I didn't pick up the dog poop or whatever. And now I don't have my allowance and the world will come to an end. And that was the beginning of realizing how my thoughts create my experience of reality. I would blame others. I would find every which way to find an excuse. And then I realized that what I was doing is laying a limitation on myself. And when I learned to harness that, I was probably, maybe 10 or 12 at that level, and would take baby steps. Like, I don't think I'm going to get a part in the Nutcracker. I don't think I'm good enough. Well, if I don't think that, then I'm not, because if I can't think that for myself, then I sure can't show up as my best. So I learned how to switch that stinking thinking, as we say, and to lay out big plans and then get out of the way of the outcome, the timeline. The other thing my dad will always say is God doesn't have a wristwatch. So it might be something that I wanted to achieve or do, experience, become. And if that was true, then I needed to hold steady in that and not allow pollution to come into my pond of thoughts. Allow for it, name it, claim it, and be it. That was the first thing I learned and could articulate as far as a unity principle goes. Great question. Now you hear that with me and my 3 kids constantly. So I have 3 kids. I have a 22-year-old, and I have a 20-year-old, and I have an almost 16-year-old on Tuesday, 2 girls and a boy. And we are a family that is very diverse. We are very fluent in the LGBTQ community. My 2 dads were here. My 2 moms are in California. My oldest daughter is a lesbian. And we take great pride in being inclusive and loving and participating in all manners of culture and life that are offered. I would say that I'm multicultural. I was born in El Paso, Texas. I spent a year in Washington, D.C., my freshman year of high school, being the only white kid in school. I was afforded a wonderful opportunity of being heavily exposed to the Native American culture, loving the earth and knowing myself, learning through drumming and prayer and vision quests and ritual how to find God anywhere, anytime. And I think that's where I really developed a deep passion for being inclusive and not ever judging a book by its cover. You just never know what is one page into somebody's story. That's where I come from in opening myself up to people and my thoughts. What else?
Any pets?
I have like the ark. I have two dogs. I have a Great Dane named Huxley. She is 130 pounds. And I have a Chiweenie named Moxie that is 15 pounds, and he rules the show. I have a 6-month-old kitten named Suki-san. My daughter named her Suki. I thought it was like Suki from the Gilmore Girls, and she corrected me and said, no, Mom, this is from like the last Airbender, Suki-san. And then I have this, I love him, I do. I tell myself that all the time. But his name is Smalls, and he is a feral cat. He was domestic, and now he's just nasty and lives outside. But he's sweet, and he's kind, and I still feed him and tell him he's beautiful. And he'll move to Florida, too. I guess. Yes?
You said you were exposed to a lot of Native American musicians, and how, through what process?
Well, it's crazy. Not crazy. Sorry, Mom. My mom is a social worker, and she was involved with a gentleman for a good chunk of my early adolescence. And the first experience I ever had was being in a sweat lodge. I didn't know what I was signing up for. I just saw all these people. There's a roaring fire, and they're building this hut, the lodge. And we're all going to take our clothes off and go in there and sweat. And that is not my favorite thing to do. So But I learned to appreciate it. I learned to harness those thoughts of panic. I can't do this. When is this going to be over? Let me out of here. And develop tenacity and stick-to-itiveness and being able to endure what is physically uncomfortable. It took me probably 5 or 6 times to be able to do that. And I was always focused on the Pizza Hut pizza at the end of the sweat lodge until I started to develop an appreciation. Like, oh, this is when it's, I guess I'm not a runner, but the runner's high. Like, you get to the point where you just don't think you can take one more step and you can't breathe, and then all of a sudden it breaks loose. And it's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this, and I'm connected, I'm in the flow, and I'm receiving that download and clarity. So we did a lot of that. I did a vision quest when I was 15. We've done many drumming circles and participated through the many reservations that are very populous in the Southwest, and just educating myself and being appreciative of the culture and the rituals of the Native American people. Thanks for asking. That's where my tattoo comes from. Not cultural appropriation, but this means coming in peace. A downward facing arrow is a come in peace. So I consider this my rainbow peace warrior statement, and it reminds me that I am not a fighter in this life. I may have been in the past, but that is not my purpose here this time. Yes? Can you take?
So he wants to know what went through your mind when you found out your daughter was a lesbian?
I knew my daughter was a lesbian when she was in utero. And to protect her, I moved her from Virginia Beach, Virginia, to Austin, Texas, where I could give her room for a broader, more accepting, understanding group to support her in the time that it took for her to be able to come out. And her sister outed her. I've been waiting for 15 years, and I told everybody, I was like, her name's Sam, so here's the deal. Her name's Sam, she wouldn't show anybody her gender. I was like, she's not identified by her gender. I don't know how I knew that, I just knew that. So my then husband was like, this is a boy, and he's gonna be Samuel. And I said, this is a girl, and I'll go with Sam. But I went to great lengths to create an environment for her to come to that understanding and that awareness within herself. And when she felt comfortable and able to do so, she could announce, come out, and be welcomed. So we didn't even skip a beat.
Ron.
I was.
Was she really in a roller derby?
I knew it. I did. So there was a docuseries on A&E called Roller Girls, and I watched it, and I was fascinated with the subculture. Just this empowered group of women just knocking each other's socks off. I would say that differently if we weren't in church. And I was just enthralled. They were powerful and had claimed their divine feminine, and were not keeping that quiet any longer. They wore what they wanted to wear, they said what they wanted to say, and they did what they wanted to do. And I was a mom of 3. I didn't want 3, I wanted 1, and we were getting a boy, by golly. And I felt like I was drowning. I felt like I was drowning in my life. And I wanted an outlet. So I looked, and there was no league where I lived at the time. And about 6 months later, my kid's dad came home, and he drops a newspaper article on the counter. Dominion Derby girls, all are welcome, will teach you everything you need to be able to play roller derby. And I was like, you want to bet? Because I was this kid at birthday parties, like holding onto the wall. So I sat in the parking lot at 9 o'clock at night, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I can't do this. I don't know how to roller skate. But I saw this adorable, now my best friend on the planet, girl with dreadlocks and tattoos to here and fro, walk in with that swagger. She had that, and I was like, I want that, and I'm gonna go get me some of that swagger. So I did. I went in. I couldn't roller skate. I failed my first evaluation. We become fresh meat, and you have to be able to, ironically and perfectly appropriate, you learn to fall first so you can fall without breaking something. So I had to strengthen my muscles to be able to fall and learn how to skate forward and cross over and stop. I went over the wall many times, and I failed my first eval. 17 other gals passed. I did it again, 6 weeks more of training, and a year later, 17 gals had left, and I was the captain of our travel team. Yes, Mark.
Springboard on that. So how or what part of your rollerball experience would you bring this?
Oh, good question.
So what would, for the people online, what would her rollerblading or roller derby experience, how would that transition into her ministry?
Yeah. Oh, I can't help but bring the energy, yes, but I won't knock you onto the wall, I promise. I came to the realization when it was coming time to retire that my heart was broken at the idea of leaving the ladies because they were my first ministry. We were a 501c3, so we ran it. We had a board. We ran our business. We had to fund ourselves. We donated and partnered with charities. We did street marketing, grassroots marketing. We recruited females and men for refereeing at the time from all walks of life. And when I came in, I had huge aspirations in a large league, and within about 6 months, we were down to 9. We didn't even have enough to compete. And I didn't quit. We did exactly that. We recruited. We did street skates. We went anywhere and everywhere we invited. We were in parades. And we were just spreading the word of how roller derby could save your soul. And before I knew it, we had not one, but 2 teams, and then a third. And I was ministering to women of all ages, all colors, all gender identifications, all walks of life and professions, seeing them through death of parents, unexpected pregnancies, unexpected losses of pregnancies, promotions, moves, transitions. And I fell in love with them. I fell in love with people in that process. So what will I bring with me in ministry that I learned in roller derby? Absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. Time for 1 or 2 more, and then I'm going to let you all get to your online Christmas shopping that's socially distanced and safe. Yes.
Your favorite Bible verse and why?
Oh, my favorite.
Your favorite Bible verse and why? That's an L&O question. That's
It
right out of
is. I'm like,
licensing and
I have
ordination.
dumped
She
all
has
of
been asked
that.
this question before, as most of us have.
My favorite Bible verse and why. I don't know that I have a favorite Bible verse. Tracy would rattle that off in like no time, but I will tell you my favorite story is the story of Lazarus. I love the parallel lines of that story of how we can get pushed and pulled in distractions in life in a million different ways, and how Jesus was doing what he was called to do and healing the sick and raising the consciousness of his disciples because his time on earth was coming close to an end. And he got word that his best friend, his beloved, was sick and going to die. Now, I don't know about any of you, but if that was something that I heard right now, I'd pack up and be out of here, probably you'd see a yellow streak behind me. But he gives us permission in that story to continue to do our work and allow for God to handle everything else. Not being afraid and never questioning the strength of his own resolve. He made the journey, and Lazarus was dead for 4 days. But he knew the power that he had within him, and through the expression of gratitude and expectation, that he would raise Lazarus. And he did. to the detriment of his own demise. So maybe, just maybe, my favorite scripture quote is Jesus wept. Standing outside that tomb, he wept for humanity. He wept at the idea of showing the fullness of himself and that we wouldn't understand. And not understanding the potential of the Christ ended in his death via crucifixion. That's my favorite Bible story.
My question, what is your experience with the Hispanic, Black, and other ethnic communities?
You want to repeat it?
Okay. What's your experience with other Black, Hispanic, Latino, and other ethnic communities?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I was raised in El Paso, Texas. Don't ask me to speak Spanish now because I don't use it, and you forget it if you don't use it. But I spoke Spanish before I spoke English, and I have a great love for the Hispanic culture. I was a minority in El Paso, a minority in my school, and I had a front row seat because my mother was a social worker dealing with the underserved pregnant females from Juarez, Mexico. And I learned through her the appreciation, how to not to judge people, but to accept and love them. And I have huge influences of the Hispanic culture in my family. My mom is completely bilingual. We love tamales and all of that the world has to offer as far as the flair of food goes. And I understand the beliefs and I respect the tradition of Catholicism and traditional roles within the Hispanic community. The Black community, I didn't have very many Black friends growing up. And I had the opportunity to move to Washington, D.C. when I was in 9th grade. And here I was with my gay dads and my pressed chinos and my button-down shirt and rolled up to the blacktop behind the school, and it was literally like, scratch the record. Everybody stopped and looked because I was the only white kid in school. So I experienced extreme loneliness and being misunderstood. I was also given the opportunity to recognize my limited understanding of Black culture. And I had the few friends that came via the track team, which I was put on the track team because I was being chased to the metro, and the track coach saw me streaking across the baseball field. He was like, woo, we're gonna get her on the team. But they became my family. So I learned some of Black culture. I don't claim to know all of it. Curious, open, willing, for sure. But I was invited to experience Kwanzaa. I was invited to understand more of each of my friends' individual experiences and their walks of life. So I feel ahead of the curve from many and really know that I have a long way to go, that I'm open for it. Yes,
Yeah,
online.
we do have a question from the chat. Share with us your views on the priesthood of the people.
The priesthood of the people. What is the priesthood of the people?
I'm not sure.
Well, I will share that when I Google what the priesthood of the people is.
If they follow up, then I can
Yes,
provide
please.
some more clarification. Absolutely.
Okay. Yes, that's a great L&O question. Just kidding. Yes, Tracy.
So I just want to mention that we were all in school together, and Maggie and I were ordained at the same time, and Donna's right behind us. So my question would be, as a minister myself, how we can, as community, bring our church communities together. What would your vision might be?
Good question. You want to repeat it for those?
Sure. She said, for all of us, we have a history, and we'll all eventually be in different places and different ministries. I think it's where the question's coming from. And this is called unity. So how would we bring all of our churches together to be more connected and to be more unified?
Yeah. So one of the greatest blessings, I think, for churches at large and most definitely unity, has been COVID-19, because it thrust us into the technological age. And if you wanted to participate, you wanted to survive or thrive during this time when we haven't been in person, then you needed to get your technological ducks in a row. And likewise, that has opened the doors for us to make instant and inexpensive connections. I have spoken in Vancouver, British Columbia. I have spoken in Seattle, Washington, and I have never left my home. So I cannot imagine how we wouldn't leverage that experience and grow from here, where we can use and leverage different ministers, different ministries, and their strengths to provide a wider and deeper knowledge base, satisfy curiosities and education, and church swap. So from time to time, we've got a mecca of unity churches here in Florida, and why we wouldn't just be willing to spread the talent and the passion and the wisdom and the knowledge between communities to catch fire and to get rid of this stigma that unity is the best kept secret. We need to take the secret off and let everybody know that we are here. Okay, friends, I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to read the prayer that's in your journal that I wrote for Faith to close us out if there are no more questions. Give me just a second. This is on page 2. Inviting you to take a deep breath and closing your eyes and allowing stillness to come into my body and mind. I feel the presence of God within my being and all around me. As I feel my heart beating and my lungs breathing, I come into the alignment with the one that is my source and supply in all matters of my life. Within the very construction of my cells, I know the seed of divinity that is planted within my being. God is within me. God is all around me. God is in the thoughts that I think, the actions I take, the words that I speak. I know no limitations, no justification, no excuse for not fully embracing that which I am called to do in this lifetime. In faith, I know that all I need in each moment is available. In faith, I take each step on my path and know the path will rise to meet my feet. I take great strides centered in truth, and I open my heart to the unique process of what is becoming in my life. In faith, I am steady and wise and bold. All that is unfolding in my life is for my highest good. I allow myself to freely experience inner peace, love, and joy in all of my days, and I am grateful. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
Amen. All right, so just as one last thing before we let Reverend Maggie go, we're going to do our unity blessing that we do for everybody. So I'm going to invite everybody to rub your hands together, send your energy this way, and repeat after me. Reverend Maggie, we love you. Reverend Maggie, we love you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ in you. And we behold the Christ in you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Colton, thank you. Oh, before you guys go, just to remind you, If you can, there's a second survey for the workshop or feedback form that you can do. It's also online. It's just below the one that was for the service earlier today. So you can click on both. So we would really love for you to do the workshop feedback form. Also, if you need a paper one, there's a different paper one. Don's got that back there too. So but you'll need to fill out the paper one and leave it here before you leave. But you've got all day today to go online and do the online feedback form for the workshop too. Okay? Thank you.